As more AI tools get into the hands of the general public, we're continuing to see creative mischief that tops the headlines, such as AI-generated music, photography, and video. At the same time, we continue to see calls for caution from around the world in terms of ChatGPT and similar generative AI tools. We're going to discuss the latest chaos in this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Today in Tech. The freight train of AI in the news continues to roll along, causing a lot of headline noise and hand-wringing from some of the experts out there. So joining me on this show to discuss a bunch of these topics is Alex Lawrence. He is an associate professor of business at Weber State University in Utah. He's been on our show before earlier this year. He was here to discuss how he uses ChatGPT in his business classes. Welcome back, Alex.
Hey, good to see you.
Should I call you Professor Lawrence, or is Alex okay?
Nope, my students call me Alex.
Okay.
So you.
All right, cool.
Good.
Let's jump into.
If you get out of line though, if you get out of hand, that you have to call me Dr. Lawrence. If we've got you.
All right. Well, I'll promise to be good, and I'll raise my hand before I ask any questions.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the first topic. This got a bunch of headlines. Probably a couple weeks ago. There was an AI-generated photo that was submitted to a competition, and they sort of did it to make a point, but it ended up winning the competition. Chris, can you bring that up on screen? It's the IGN article. And you've seen this photo, right, Alex?
Oh, yeah. The woman with the mother figure.
Right. So it was... German artist Boris Eldigsgen rejected a prestigious photography award, revealing that his submission was AI generated, and he was merely trying to spark debate. And this was from the Sony World Photographer Awards. So when you read about this, is this something more that we should sort of laugh at and go, haha, those judges, they didn't realize that this was an AI sort of photograph, or do we blame the guy for submitting it? Like, where do you stand in terms of, because again, I know you've used, you're a supporter of using ChatGPT to help, people create things in different ways. I'm on the fence on either way. I like the fact that this guy did this, but maybe he should have admitted it before submitting. I don't know. What are your thoughts on? Because again, I look at the photo, and other than the hands, you can't really tell. And then you look at the hands, and they're like, those don't look like real hands. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, and I was talking to a group of educators yesterday, is I think we've yet to realize the impacts that this is going to have on the creative culture and the creative opportunities in the world. So music and art and photography and those kinds of things. And so, what if he didn't disclose ever, either during or after? It would be my question. And if somebody somehow accused him, how would they prove it? He could probably produce something that would appear as though he took the photo and so forth. So, I mean, I wonder if, especially where there's incentives like money and prestige and things like that, suddenly you've got people like you and I that can enter photography competitions and potentially do reasonably well when we've got no business, doing that. And so I think it's just a really complicated question, where, do you have special categories for AI? Is it fair game because it's all art? And so, and even then, let's say you set up these categories and so forth. I mean, how do you just voluntary disclosure?
Right.
And so, there's a lot of issues that I'm not totally sure what the answer is.
It does feel like in this case, the person who submitted it did have enough of an ethical sort of urging, or there was probably that conscience that said to him, "Hey, make sure that if you do win, that you sort of admit it." I think he submitted it and didn't admit it, but then once it won, he's like, "Oh, wait, I can't win this," because he probably knew that he probably would have been caught at some point. Someone would have gone like, "Wait a second, this doesn't look real," and or they would have been able to use some of these detection tools that I don't know if these detection tools could work on something like this. But this is an example in the artwork space where you're just seeing these things, and people are sort of, I want to say that they're sort of like poking at the wall to see see if they can kind of break the wall. Does that sound like a decent analogy? That people are using AI, and I think that's a good thing, that people should continue to sort of use these tools in ways to try to at least make it so that we can discover this, for example. Like, again, like you said, if this person had never admitted it, he could have won and just walked away. And that's, I think, more disturbing to me than just sort of at least the act of trying to do this. Like, for example, so I want to show you some other photos so I got access to the Adobe Firefly AI generated tool. So this is now, there was DALL-E, which could generate sort of images, and Midjourney, which I think right now is the best AI art generator out there in terms of the type of artwork that's producing. But Adobe's doing it. Now they're a big corporation and they're integrating this into Illustrator and Photoshop and other things. But so I finally I signed up for the access and I got it. And so the coolest thing I think it does is that you can generate text art effects. So you type in a word and then you type in a description about what you want to fill in the word, and you can change the fonts. So it came up with, I just used my name on this one. And so, and I think my prompt was basically the word Keith, and then I asked it to put in like tech, microphone, blue and green, because that's sort of the colors of the show. And it matched it really well. And so I could now take this and then, go into Photoshop, and I could do some additional things like this. I'm not going to make a t-shirt out of this, but I could put this on my Facebook page. I could do some other things. So I'm using it as sort of as a tool to then kind of enhance, rather than going and learn Illustrator and try to do that myself. And the great thing about Adobe Firefly is that it does this amazingly fast. Like, I could just change the colors and it was like, boom. And it's not charging me any credits at the moment. So it's just sort of very fast and very, very cool. But on the other hand, all right, so then I asked it to sort of draw me based on my YouTube account for this show. And then and it produced some really bad stuff. But then I said, all right, do the same thing, but now put me in a hoodie, give me a beard, give me the glasses. And it came up with this. And this is actually not bad. This is pretty impressive. Yeah, and although again, it still doesn't do letters right. The AI cannot do like actual words correctly, at least as far as I can tell.
Not at the moment.
But that sort of looks like me. I don't understand what all that the white stuff up there is near the. But that's sort of.
The eyes are a little weird.
Yeah, and the eyes look a little weird. And all right, but then I tried to. So then there was another one where I was talking on my show, and this is now the Nightmare Fuel stuff. So I tried to get it to replicate a photo of me dressed up as an alligator mascot getting a kiss from a female fan. And I've discussed this before, and the first thing it produced was this. And this is now the Nightmare Fuel. This is just
like horror movie
obviously
kind of
you can tell that's obviously not a real photo. The closest it got was this one, which was an actual alligator, but that's not a mascot. It's a guy wearing an alligator.
I mean, I have to say there's some sort of a psychological analysis here that might need to be done for the choice of prompt. I mean, the alligator mask, I don't know what that means, but hey.
Yeah, it's basically, I was just, so I have a photo of this when I was a mascot in my 20s. I was a mascot for a couple games. And then I tried, so my go-to prompt to see how good some of these tools are Dorothy from the Golden Girls in the kitchen with Alf from the 1980s sitcom. and
aged big time, right?
And it's horrible. Yeah. So this is like,
oh boy.
Yeah, and this puppet that it created, like, this is going to give me like nightmares. And
that looks like and it does have a difficult time grabbing stuff like that, but that's right now, and that's in public tools, private tools and tools that are going to be updated and released. And I tell people this all the time. I was in this meeting yesterday, and they kept saying, "Oh well, it doesn't have information past 2021, and it gets this thing wrong and that thing wrong." And I said, "Agreed, all valid, but you think that's going to be true a year from now? With the pace of innovation, the amount of investment going into this, the intellect of the people that are working on it. You got to just think just a little bit down the road and recognize that's not going to be an issue here soon." So
one of the things I was thinking about when I was sort of generating these and seeing some of these stories out there of people that are trying to sort of poke the holes in the AI is that, so I'm over 40. I'm going to just say that I've been around a while.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And so again, I have this ethical basis of like, I can't think of anything really bad to try to trick it. And then I realized that we should just hand off this technology to 13-year-old boys. And because, or 13-year-old teenagers are the ones that try to like basically do the most like nasty things to anything. Like they just comment about, and they don't have a filter. And it brings me back to when I was a kid, and the worst thing I could do with technology was create the word boobies on my calculator when you did it upside down. Sure. Which again, if anybody under the age of 40 is listening, they're like, "What the hell is he talking about?" But that was the mischief that we got into now. But now you're seeing like mischief of all sorts, including the Snapchat AI, which apparently someone got the AI to spit out a racial slur, and they tricked it. And so some of these tricks that are coming up with, I think, are either they're being thought of by minds that are either more devious than me, or it's a bunch of 13-year-old teenagers. That leads me to the question. You deal with a lot of younger folks in your classes, and you've been integrating ChatGPT and these tools into some of your classes. How has that been going? Are they adopting it? Are you finding that they're sort of coming up with ways to trick it, or what's been your experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, so there hasn't been really a reason for them to trick it as it relates to my courses,
okay.
Right? So, but we spend a lot of time just talking about, expanding their thinking about how they can use it, ways they can use it. And there's been a real interest, I would say, from students in having it try to figure out how to do side hustles for them to make passive income. That's where they're starting to get kind of creative, and what can I set it up to do for me? So, can I grab work online doing this and that and the other. So there's a lot of interest in that, helping them to make money using it. In terms of my classes and my assignments, since it's all out in the open and we just talk about it and we get creative together, but it's really creativity in the prompts and creativity in the tools. And we're using more, some of the AI generated PowerPoint type stuff to help them, create these presentations. AI generated like video review, so when they're recording things, to help them get rid of the ums and the ahs and the saying like too many times, mm-hmm. and things such as that. And so I think that the tools that they're using are it's creative, but not getting that way outside of the box. The thing that's kind of a little bit it's interesting. I know some students are cheating with it and not telling me.
Okay.
And so I've talked to a few of them that when I feel like it's really obvious. And finally, I had one student that essentially cut and pasted an entire GPT response into multiple slides. And the reason you could tell is just the gray background, yep. Between yep. all the text. And so I talked to this person on the phone, and they admitted it. And I essentially, said, I could fail you, but I won't. I could turn you in, but I won't. But I need you to go back through and redo all the assignments, and I'll trust you as to which ones you used it on and didn't tell me. And you need to do it by this date. And they were grateful for that, and they went through and redid everything on their own. But I am a little bit bummed that even though I'm so open about it and so encouraging and so let's do this, it's great, that I'm still having students that aren't disclosing the use, and they're trying to pawn off GPT. And you can't. I can ask the question. Unless I have proof, I can't do anything. And I don't want to spend much time on that. But in the obvious cases like this, where it was just super lazy, to be honest, they just cut and pasted. And I called them on the phone and said, "Come on, be straight with me." And they were. So I think the creative uses where they're also, sorry to go on and on, where they're also really interested though is in the music area.
Yeah.
Because they're all students are really into. We can talk about that, but they're really fascinated by what's going on in the music world.
Yeah, that's a great segue. That's was my next topic was how much did you hear? Like, how much do you know about sort of the Drake Weekend? There was. When I try to hear, I haven't heard the song because I think every time that someone tries to post the song, it gets taken down. And there's a conspiracy theory going on that it may have been generated by actually someone associated with Drake, or they're trying to get to drum up publicity for something. So I haven't really put a lot of stock into that. Plus, I'm not a sort of a fan of that music anyway. But then there was another article that came out this week that said an artist named Grimes, and I don't know who this is either, but says anyone can use her voice for AI generated songs. There she is on the screen. So you're also finding out, and again, it's about using that artist's voice and then sampling it and sort of creating something new out of something that exists, and that's been going on for years in the music industry as well. Is that what you're finding? You have students that are doing this as well in terms of creating new music. Because again, I'm not in that music generation sort of space.
Yeah. So I have heard it, and I played it for them, and I don't think any of them had heard it yet. Now, I mean, I just barely came out, and I obviously pay attention to this stuff pretty closely. But if I recall, I don't think I told them. We actually do a music related assignment in my classes anyway, and so I kind of started playing it, and I told them it was Drake in The Weeknd, and you can kind of see them bobbing their heads and stuff. And when I said, hey, this is complete 100% AI generated, their voices, the track, the words, everything, and several of them were like, what? Because they know these artists really well. And so yeah, that was but where they're interested is some of them are messing around with it in terms of music creation, especially the ones that are musical. But the thing that I keep kind of checking in with them on is, okay, you just listen to that song. Do you care that it was generated by AI? Does it matter to you? And the universal response has been no. If I like it and that's cool and it sounds like who I think it is, then turn it up. And so that if I'm in the music industry, I think that probably scares me more than excites me, because that's very disruptive, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if that's generational as well. That I think would I care if a song came out from one of my favorite artists from like the 80s if it was generated by AI? Like I'm a little disturbed by some of the sort of the video deep fakes that people are thinking about. Like the biggest example is Harrison Ford, like Indiana Jones. They've got the new movie coming out and they've used the technology to sort of de-age him. And that is also sort of part of the whole AI stuff. It's not necessarily AI, but after a lot of these actors pass away, can the studios then use their images and their voices and create, so we don't have to actually hire a new Indiana Jones if they want to keep doing those movies. You could just use the old footage, and that I don't know if I would support it unless, like you said, it was a good story and it was a good, interesting, sort of idea for a movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple thoughts around that. I think the vast majority of us are casual music listeners, and so we don't have that tie to we may have a few favorites, wherever the people that are really into music, I think they'd be like, oh, that's not really them. Some might totally turn them off, but the majority of music listeners and buyers, I think, are just interested in an entertaining song that they like the way certain artists sounds. And again, I'm not in the music industry, but that's my anecdotal experience over the years. So I think a lot, to your point, what if somebody's dead and a new song can come out that sounds just like them and sounds like something they would have done? A new Michael Jackson song, for example, that comes out that's really cool, and so there's going to be a large group of people that are going to think that's really disrespectful and wrong, and obviously his estate and others are going to try and sue him and take it down. But then there's going to be another group of people that'll be like, but it's a cool song, and we can't have music from him anymore. What a miracle that we can, have an extension of that. And so I don't know the ratios of where that's going to land, but same thing in movies. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and I'm really excited that it's coming out. It was a big part of my childhood and memories of going to the movies and stuff. If Harrison Ford were dead and they were I would rather just get a new Indiana Jones, just like a James Bond. Right. I wanted a new one. But how many decades have to go by before maybe that isn't as big a deal or it doesn't matter, but then it's not special either. I mean, I'm dying for Indiana Jones to come out this summer. It's been several years, but if a new one could come out, every week, right? Then, it's not, that's part of the thing, is the build up to it. And the fact that there's only one every so many years and things like that. So it's not as special anymore. And so I don't know. I think it's going to be a bumpy ride with that.
I think you just described the Marvel universe in terms of that's what people are experiencing now. There's so many Marvel movies that people are going to be like, I'm kind of getting sick of this Marvel stuff. Yeah.
And especially, but then again, you know what? Some private creators might make something awesome that's better. In fact, they will. There'll be some private creators who have so much more creativity and so much more freedom, and they're going to put something out that's going to be like whoa, that's way better than, what we've seen the last couple of years from here, from there, whatever. And then in that case, does the end user, the fan care? Probably not, because it's so awesome.
Yeah, I think especially in the movie space, we're going to start seeing a lot of AI generated scripts that screenwriters are probably going to use to sort of start the idea, and then and then they'll write the script. It's not going to be completely written. It's not going to be sort of the copy paste thing that you were describing earlier. I think you're going to use it to sort of like frame me the movie or the plot, and then maybe I'll change some of the things here, and then does that become written by so and so, supported by AI? These are all these questions that I think that we're going to have to start dealing with in the creative and entertainment space. Like,
oh man, in 5 years, I think you'll be able to do a pretty dang good movie completely from your home. Create one, actors, actresses, soundtrack, the whole thing, script, all of it, and it'll be a pretty good movie. It won't be Avatar, but it'll be a pretty darn good movie within 5 years. And so the cool part about that is a lot of, but it's going to be inundated. I mean, there's going to be so many movies out, but the nature of marketplaces, the best ones will make it to the top, right? But what does that do to the movie industry? I mean, I can't even get my head around that. When anybody can make a movie essentially at some point,
right?
So I don't know what that does.
Well, that's the whole thing that happened with it's this idea of the democratization of content that we've been seeing for years. I mean, obviously anybody can have a YouTube channel if they want to just commit to the sort of the approach and the content you're creating and
but the effort now is so much less. I mean, think about the craft and the money to hire actors and actresses and do auditions and go back and forth with scripts a million times. I mean, that bar just became so much lower for people that have good creative ideas but no training or skill or capital to do this. And so when you start to talk about like that, says, wow, that's a good thing. It brings all, but then you start to kind of think about, it's not completely good because it's going to displace an industry that in my opinion needs to have some of that uniqueness and that high bar in order to produce the quality that I think the world needs. It's such a complicated question.
But couldn't you just take the sort of the people that have the experience doing things without AI, for example? You've got, a cinematographer and a screenwriter and things like that. But can't you take sort of the AI tool, generate the idea or generate sort of the baseline and then improve on it? That's what we're seeing with a lot of AI tools.
That's what I'm doing in my classes.
That's what you do with your business, like all these business tools, right?
This summer in my classes, I'm putting all of my classes through an intense AI scrub, saying two things. One, these are who my students are. This is a persona profile of my students, and help me take what I've done and make it better for that persona. Mm-hmm. And so it's years and years and years of content for me that's being dumped in. So I'm the original author for sure.
Yeah.
But it's helped me edit that so that the output, I know it will be better, because no matter how much I try, it kills me. I always have some students that say, I just don't understand what you mean. And I oftentimes I'm like, I don't know how else to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent so much time. And so I think that there's that. There's also some really interesting things I'm seeing in these new AI tools and beta stuff where you can give it the information you want to lecture on or teach, and it'll help you create custom chatbots so that students can interact with the chatbot and ask questions back and forth in real time. No, explain it to me this way, explain it to me that way, to help interpret what it is that you're teaching or lecturing on or whatever. And that kind of stuff is really cool.
Well, yeah. And so that gets into the question, do you think that AI will then replace teachers and professors and things like that? I've seen some stuff online where, again, I've got an 8th grader who asks me for help in math and algebra, and I try to explain a certain concept, and she's like, I don't know if I get it. And I jump right onto YouTube and then go, well, maybe this will help. And then we watch the video, and then I sort of explain what the guy in the video is doing, and then, But I'm seeing that's some of those ChatGPT tools can do that too, and you get sort of a back and forth, and maybe because again everybody learns in different ways. But are you concerned that someday an AI might be teaching one of your classes?
Yeah. So I mean, the ability to create a custom tutor that you can modify to explain things to you in real time, however you want, is super powerful for learning, and I'm helping my kids figure that out. and which it's funny, they don't really want to yet. They're still kind of like, no thanks. And so, but I think that'll change. So there's two, I think about this a lot and talk with others about it a lot. There's two things that really impact that. For a long period of time, I think there's going to be a section of students that want to learn in person or live from another person. There's always, they learn better that way. They like the interaction. They like going onto campus and being in class and being around other students and the social and stuff. And so AI really can't replicate that. You're right. There's a physical. So there's always going to be I believe, and it's a pretty good chunk of college aged students that like that. And so it's the online ones, especially the asynchronous online ones, where I think that becomes much more of a challenge. And so, but the opportunity is still there to do two things. I've said this from day one. It's going to force professors to up their game, which is great. Teachers in general, you got to up your game. You got to be current. You got to be bringing it. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is that professors that have real life experiences that get to know these students on a personal level, that may have a network that they can help these students connect to if they've got professional background or professional ties and stuff. That is also really difficult to replicate, but the professor has to have those things in order to offer them.
Right.
And so it requires more interest in your students, so smaller classes. If you're teaching 300 students, in which my institution, Weber State, our class sizes are, I think they average around 30, mm-hmm. which is part of the reason I love teaching there. I get to know my students. They get to know me. I open my network up to them. I talk to them about real stories that have happened and are happening out in the business world. And a lot of times we just discuss stuff that you just riff on things and tangent. And so as long as that is really high value and really current, and then I'm using AI to augment that, then personally, I feel like, I'm offering something that is going to be worth it to them.
Right.
That value's there, especially since Weber State's so affordable. But if you're not doing those things and it's really expensive, or you're kind of mailing it in and there's not a personal experience and it's asynchronous and online and stuff, there's going to be so many tools out there from startups. They're going to say, don't do that, do this. And it's $20 a month or it's free or whatever. Other than the credential, which is becoming less and less required, it's going to be a tough sell. But that's going to happen over time. I don't think it's like these boot camps and other, they're really powerful tools for graduating software developers. They're great. They learn a lot. They learn it faster. They learn it cheaper. They get jobs. Yeah. If you look at the impact that's had on the number of computer science students across the nation, it's like a rounding error. It doesn't even show up. And so, the timeline between that happening and it really disrupting, I think is a bit of time, but I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely that you're on the side of embracing it, using it, making yourself better as well, and then helping. And then as the tools get better too, you just sort of ride that wave rather than try to put up the walls. Now, out of all of this sort of the creative part of the generative AI, I don't feel like this is not necessarily dangerous to humanity in terms of, there is a potential for disrupting jobs and careers and things like that. And people will adjust. I think I've been of that, my attitude is, technology has always sort of taken some jobs away, but it's also created more jobs than it's taken away, and people adapt and people adjust. And I think it'll happen the same way with AI. But on the other hand, you also are seeing, go ahead. Do you disagree? You don't think what?
I don't think this is going to happen that same way where the jobs lost are going to be replaced in any reasonable amount of time. I think there's going to be a big gap there. I think there's going to be a big job loss, and there's going to be quite a bit of time before those are regained. And because the quantity of job loss, again, I'm nobody's a bigger fan than I am, but let's just talk about, do you mind if we go down this path?
Yeah, sure. I thought you would be on my side of things in terms of that new jobs would be created, but because I come from the automation side of things too, where they talk about this in robotics all the time too.
Robotics is kind of this industry of making things.
Yeah.
AI can hit music and art and math and science and business and journalism and like overnight it can hit all of them. And so let's just talk about one that I've been thinking about. Let's talk about customer service jobs. There's millions of those jobs in America, right? Where they're doing telephone and email customer service. I would imagine there's millions of jobs. Do you think that's
that's fair?
Thousands?
Fair to say.
So you've got a scenario where you've got the customer who's calling or emailing, and I'm talking about the majority of customer service, which is probably like 20 of the same questions or 90% of the questions. You're calling T-Mobile, you got a question about your bill,
Yep.
about your service, right? So I'm not talking about complicated or nuanced, or I'm talking about the vast majority of telephone and email customer service. So from a customer side, what would make that experience great for me? It's open 24/7. Don't have to call during business hours. There's no hold time or wait time.
Mm-hmm.
The person that answers the phone speaks as a first language, the same language that I do. They know all the answers. They're friendly. And so if those things, that's really all I'm looking for, those 6 things in the customer service email or phone call, right? There's nothing else. I get the answer I want. I didn't have to wait. It's a nice person,
right?
Or email, right? So that's it. Those check all the boxes from a customer standpoint for a perfect experience. On the business side, my customers want that, and I can give that to them much less expensively. I can make more money and have less headaches and give the customer exactly what they want. So now you've got both sides of that. And in between it, you have a human that's answering the phone or responding to emails. Why in the world, unless you just really like people and you don't want to let go of people and you're loyal to people, which is a great thing, but why in the world would those jobs stick around? Seriously, why would those millions of jobs stay, or some percentage of those millions of jobs stay, if both of those things are true?
You would still hold on to a customer service rep if they could solve the 10% of the problems that maybe the chatbot can't solve.
Sure, but let's say out of millions of jobs, do you keep 10,000 people? Do you keep 20,000 people? It's going to be.
Isn't customer service a really crappy job anyway?
But here's my point. Let's just round up. Let's say you got 1 million people that do that, and 100,000 of them are going to be kept to handle the 10% jobs. Okay, I don't know. So those 900,000 people, what are you going to train them to quickly do? How do they replace that job? What are they going to go do?
Oh, you're asking me like what?
They're not going to go do something else in AI, because that's going to require quite a bit of. I'm not discounting that because I've done that job. I'm just saying there's not an immediate path to upskill or change skills. And when you've got both sides of that equation that so want the same thing, I don't know why it doesn't happen relatively quickly. As soon as the voice technology with the AI is, I'll give you a very real example. I'm on LinkedIn, and an e-commerce company that I know and follow that sells products. The last 30 days, they've done their customer service 100% using AI, and they saved $750 a week doing it. And customer satisfaction was up 350%. So why are they going to hire more customer service people? And why are they, in fact, they obviously let some people go. If they saved $750 a week, they let go a customer service person or two. I'll give you a second example. I had lunch yesterday with the CEO of a company I'm intimately involved in, and this is a jump from customer service. They're done hiring software developers. They don't think they need more, because they think the developers they have with AI and they've been high growth, profitable, growing, they're not hiring anymore because they think the developers they have plus AI. But they'd be hiring feverishly otherwise. So that jumped over to software development, which is another specifically impacted. But back to this very real example, why wouldn't young companies, medium-sized companies, startups where money is really important and you see these kind of results, start letting people go, or at the very least stop hiring people while they figure it out?
Well, I would also think that if you wanted to hold on to those customer service people, at least cut down your call times. If you are calling and it's like, your call is very important to us, we'll be on the line in 30 or 40 minutes. Obviously, if you can get down that down to like 2 minutes, I think I would
be zero with AI. It'd be zero.
Okay. So now I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me. So I ordered something, and I'm going to it's Amazon. I ordered something from Amazon. It was delivered. I opened the box and it was the wrong item. And this was some syrup for a SodaStream machine that I have.
Yep.
They didn't send me the right one. So I go onto the Amazon site and I said, I want to do a return. And you go through the menus and it says, oh, you can't return this or replace it because it's food or whatever. It's considered food.
Yep.
And I went into a web loop for about 3 minutes, couldn't figure out how to do it. I couldn't then also call anybody. like because Amazon doesn't put their phone number on.
I say you can't call anybody an Amazon, period.
Yeah,
right.
So then finally, I finally then said, all right, I'll go use the chatbot, because again, my experiences with chatbots have always been awful. And this was before AI, or at least before, this is still the sort of the call and response type of AI systems. So I went on and then, I basically typed in my question that said, I can't return it, but you delivered the wrong item. Like I need a refund at this point. That was my only thing that I could do, because I didn't want to have this product. It's not what I ordered. And again, it then's like, I could tell it was a chatbot, because it was like, okay, let me look this up for you and please be patient. It was all polite and all that other stuff, but it was like, I know that this is a chatbot. And eventually it did actually, I had to like trigger it a couple of times, push a couple buttons like, hey, what's going on with this? And then they finally said, your refund is all processed and you'll get it in 3 or 5 days, whatever. I don't know if finally a human stepped in and typed in like, okay, you're all set with a refund. So yes, the chatbot did work, but was I satisfied with this sort of arrangement where as if I did call and explain the situation and they could have said, oh yeah, that's probably, we should have programmed that into the website a lot better. I don't know.
Like I said, we just kept 100,000 people out of 1 million to do that job, right? And I will tell you, my experience with Amazon, the chatbots, has been great. It's quick, it gets it right. It processes stuff. I'm like, man, I love it when, and granted, I'm an early adopter. I love it when I can go to a website and there's a chatbot or a live chat that appears to be a person, because I get 24/7 access. I get quick answers. And again, the nuanced stuff. Okay, we kept 100,000 people to handle that using our example, but the other 900,000, where do they go? Where do they transition to get jobs with the skill set?
Do you have thoughts on what you would do if you were sort of in charge of those companies? Would you direct those people to look for different careers or different options for them, like more training? Is it something like you train them in a different field?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. It really depends on the company, because it's tough in general, that question, because having run businesses and still running businesses, there's a couple of considerations. I mean, one, they're people and they're part of your team and they're humans and stuff, and you want to be empathetic.
Like you don't want to. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you don't want to tell them like, oh, just go learn to code, like, because that's very cold. Yeah.
But on the flip side, if the business is going to get disrupted, you've got an obligation to the other people that aren't going to be, that work there, that aren't directly affected by, like, say, a customer service job. And so it's I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you what companies are doing. They are seriously looking at replacing, not hiring for a lot of these jobs, because again, the customer satisfaction went up 350%.
Yeah.
So you can make yourself sleep at night if you are having a hard time with it by saying, but it's a better experience for our customers. They want it, they need it, they like it, and it's not anecdotal. It's very, very, the call times are down, the wait times are down, the survey satisfactions are up, da 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 da. And again, I can tell you, I know I would feel that way if those 6 things were handled really well. And so that's just one subset of jobs, though. I mean, you can start. Let's talk about journalists. Let's talk about writers. Let's know people that write. So typically you'd have a journalist that kind of has a beat, right? They've got a specialty. They write on this topic, and they write about politics, right? For example, and then sports, and then religion, and then right. Well, now can you have one person that does all of them, right? So it's still a human. It's still part of the 100,000 of the million example, but now instead of 9, you've got 1, right? And so okay, so now they all have journalism degrees and they're great journalists, and so now what do they go do? What are they trained to do? Well, you can go get a job writing for somebody else, but that waterfall effect will happen. So maybe they're starting their own thing. They're doing their own Substack.
Yeah, there's a subset of journalism. Like, obviously, the AIs can write a story or at least write things that are based on. But I don't know if they can. Well, okay, they can probably cover events and news and things like that. But a lot of the things that go on in journalism is also about cultivating your sources and having relationships with other people and using those relationships.
Again, that's part of the 100,000 though. A lot of news that I read is just news.
It's just rewritten press releases.
Writing about what's going on. It's not investigative journalism. Yeah. That's the 100,000 of the million I'm talking about. The other 900,000 are, what happened with Trump and DeSantis yesterday, and what happened with the Lakers and the Grizzlies last night. And they're not talking. It's not really sources. It's kind of regurgitated stuff that somebody's writing, and I guarantee you they're using AI right now to generate that stuff. And I'm not trying to degrade journalism in any way. I'm just saying that then you start thinking about, okay, like when you were talking about your name and the logo stuff, think about the people that are doing logo design, website design, ad campaigns, creative. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I need some business card designs for something. And I thought, man, why wouldn't I just go to Midjourney and some other ones and say, here's my logo and here's what I'm looking for. Whip me up a bunch of them. And 5 minutes later, I got one I like and sent it off to the printer. And that just saved me, $150 from LogoWorks, or, a few $100 more from a local designer. I got it faster. I got to iterate really quick till I got something that I liked. And so I just started thinking about all those creative folks that do kind of this. So again, the 100,000 are, boy, no, I want a special website. I want a really cool app. I really want to consult with my design and really think about what it says and the branding. But that's the 100,000. The other 900,000, I need a business card. I need a logo. I want my name. And they're not going to use those folks hardly at all in the coming years, because the outcome is better. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's faster, and they like the result better. Those are pretty compelling incentives.
Alex, I was all excited about this, and now you're now.
Well, I'm not. I mean, listen, I'm in this weird spot where I'm so excited about it, and I'm on the forefront of it, but I'm scared, and I don't know the answers, and I'm anxious about it, because it's like, okay, so now those creative folks, especially the ones that hang in their own shingle, doing their own thing, where do they go? Well, they've got to get into the really custom, but how much room is there for those? And so I don't know, man.
Well, there's also a market of people that may never go to a website and try to design this themselves, or they're not going to have. I mean, obviously, you and I, we love this stuff, so I'm trying everything on Midjourney and I'm trying everything on Adobe and all this other stuff.
But now, have you seen the new spreadsheet stuff that's out there that's Excel competitors?
No, I'm trying. I try to avoid anything with spreadsheets.
Okay, so listen.
All right.
So the formulas and dealing with spreadsheets can be really complex and intimidating, right? But it's super powerful. And so that skill set is kind of like, people that think that way, that do that stuff, they're mathematical, they're numbers oriented, but it's a powerful tool for analysis and stuff. So this new tool that I saw, I can't remember what it's called, and I can promise you that Excel will have this integrated, some version of this within the year. Mm-hmm. You just talk to it like a person, and you just say, you give it access to all the data. Mm-hmm. Right? Here, plug in, here's all the data. Will you tell me what the average of this for the last 3 years, and create a chart for me that shows that? And that's all you do is type in, and boom, the chart. And they say, no, can you do that in a different chart that's these colors? And can you actually expand the time frame? Then the creepy thing, what other things am I missing with this data that you could show me that would be interesting? What other things that you think might help me make these kinds of strategic decisions or business decisions or whatever with the data that you have, can you show me? So I don't even know what I need to ask. I'm asking it, and I'm just typing to it, whatever, just exactly like I am now. You don't need to know anything about the formulas. You don't need to know anything about the math. You don't need to know anything about how the spreadsheet works. And now you've got all this access to data. So now what about analysts? Right, that all they do is crunch this stuff and create reports and dashboards, and so if I can make it easy enough for you to do, little prompt bar, little 60-second video that walks me through how to do it, plug in a few data sources, and have it start putting out information about how to optimize your YouTube channel, like analyze all your subscriber data and all your traffic data, and say, hey, tell me what keywords I should be optimizing for, and where I should be placing ads, and what kind of content I should be doing more of, and other things you think that I could do to make my YouTube channel subscriber growth improve based on all the analytics and data and back end. And that's all you asked it, and it came out with really good suggestions. I mean, that's a whole industry that just got impacted. That does that.
But it does feel like a lot of these tools will help people that don't want to spend that time to learn all this stuff and go out and pay for all that stuff too. It just
the collective intelligence is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, well, that's good, right?
Yeah, but then people don't. I mean, this is a discussion I had with a bunch of educators yesterday. What happens to learning about critical thinking? What happens to learning about how things lead to the answers? And then the counter argument is, yeah, but calculators, right?
Yeah.
Do we teach them the long division? No, we just teach them how to punch things into it and stick shifts and manual. Do we teach people how to drive stick shifts anymore? Not really. And so there's again, it's you can go back and forth and make compelling arguments both ways for sure.
Same thing with cursive writing. My kids don't know how to do cursive writing, but then they need to do their signature, and their signatures look, I don't even know what they're signing when they sign these things.
Have you tried to write? I mean, I have to.
I do every you know what? Every now and then I do try to practice my cursive again, because that's how the Generation X is going to destroy all of the younger generations. So we're going to send secret messages in cursive.
Seriously, well, my writing looks like a secret message now, and not intentionally. It's my writing is so poor. I have to really think about it to have it be legible. So, but anyway, it's exciting and scary, all this stuff.
All right, Alex, we're going to have you back on another episode, I'm sure, because this stuff is always fascinating to talk with you about, and just to get that real world experience from the education side, it's great. So, thanks again for joining us on the show.
Yeah, great to be with you again. Look forward to next time.
All right, that's all the time we've got for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and add any comments that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.